Elliotte Friedman joins us now in 32 Thoughts. Swag, I love it. What's going on, Friedge?
It's Merrick stuff too. You know, I just want to know. I'm not so vain that I would wear my own kind of clothing.
That one's Merrick's?
Yeah, this is a Merrick. This is Merrick's yellow laces. Yes.
So yesterday on the show, I bring up the future of Andrei Kuzmenko. The 21 goals, all that stuff. Jesse and I have a conversation. I say this is an interesting one for the Canucks. He's 27 when the deadline rolls around. Scoring, they can afford, what they can get back for him, blah, blah, blah. Turns out 2 years, $11 million. Does it surprise you that we heard this and at this time?
No, I think they've been working towards this for quite some time. I think they went to the agent, Dan Milstein, about 6 weeks ago, and they said that this was their plan and this is what they wanted to do. I also have to think on some level there were conversations before Kuzmenko signed about that, you know what, we're going to sign in Vancouver for this year. There was a lot of interest in him. I'm sure they talked about what the next kind of deal could look like. So I don't think this was a huge surprise to anybody. But, you know, like I think the player's happy there. You know, some guys come over from Russia. There aren't as many successes like Panarin and Kuzmenko. There's a lot of players who've come over, Kaprizov. There have been other players who've come over and they've been a little bit older and it hasn't worked and they go back. I think Vancouver wanted to keep this player, and I just don't think we're in a place right now where long-term was possible. And also, it's short enough a marriage that if it doesn't work for everybody, it's not going to be too hard to get out of.
So, like, I played a clip of Rick Tocchet being at a loss for words in Game 2. It was nitpicked. It was a good tweet. I understand it. But outside of Bo Horvat and his 31 goals in 48 games, it feels like it's been double-down season in Vancouver. I miss stuff. I'm not above that. Like, am I missing something here in Vancouver? Or is it just Bo Horvat and that's what they're going to do? Or is there more Bach Besser? Like, how do they end up getting more cap space so that they can do the things that they want to do in the future?
Well, I think that that's a question I think a lot of us are wondering. I think this is going to. This is my guess.
Okay.
Tim, is that where it kind of goes. I think that Besser. Excuse me, Horvat first. Excuse me, I'm getting through this.
Bless you.
Horvat,
and he's battling a flu, so we appreciate you doing this. I'm giving you the excuse here.
Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Look, Horvat, if there was any question about whether or not they'd be able to sign him, we have the answer. They signed Miller. Now they signed Kuzmenko. They're not going to be able to do Horvat, I don't think, and I think he's going to be traded. I think there's other players on that team that are going to be dealt to. I think Besser is going to be dealt. I think at some point in time, I think Myers will be dealt, whether it's this year or after his bonus is due in the summer. I think they are going to try to move some other players out. We'll see what this all means. But, you know, I heard some people saying, well, they hope that if they keep Kuzmenko, that'll make Pettersson more likely to sign. I'm not sure I would say that. I don't know if it's quite that deep. But I do think they do speak to Pettersson quite a bit about what he thinks and what his feelings are. I just feel that they want to keep a nucleus. They've committed to Miller. They're going to make Pettersson their guy. I think they wanted to have another forward, Kuzmenko, around them so they could score. And I think you're going to see a bunch of other guys moved: Horvat, Besser, Myers, and maybe Demko. I never thought I would say that, but I think we're getting to that possibility too. I do think they're going to put a ton of players out there if they haven't already.
If they're going to retool, they're going to have to talk to Pettersson throughout this entire process, because that's the only way that you retool and not rebuild. So listen, I wanted to have a fun name. I know it's not hockey. Let me get to this. Before I get to my big barter board, which I was going to go to, I know it's hockey, but is there ever a time where you could see them pulling some of those guys out of the lineup until they get a deal done, which seems inevitable for some like Horvat?
It does happen.
Yeah, like do you think? It
does happen.
Like if he got hurt, if Bo Horvat got hurt, this would be another nail in the coffin of the Canucks, because he'd end up walking in free agency. Could you see Bo Horvat sitting down eventually here before they get a deal done?
Historically, they don't do that, and the league doesn't really like them doing that unless a player's about to be traded.
Right.
Like if you're pulling a player, like it was a couple of years ago, I remember the Rangers pulled Matt Zuccarello out of the lineup, and they traded him the next day. That's the one I remember off the top of my head. That's happened here and there over the times the last couple of years, but only if a trade is close. The league will allow you or turn a blind eye to it as long as the player is close. I don't think anybody's going to be okay with Bo Horvat. You have to sit out for a week until we trade you. It's got to be imminent before that's allowed to occur.
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine if he got hurt in the meantime.
Well, it happened with Gostisbehere yesterday, right? Like he got hurt the other night, and now he's going to be out until around the deadline. It happened with O'Reilly, although it sounds like he's going to be okay. I just don't think the league would look fondly on. And to be honest, if I was the Players Association, I would grieve that. I would say you can't do that. You can't do that to our player. I would fight. If I was a player, I would fight that very hard.
I don't know. If I was Bo Horvat, I might sit down. Give me a little bit of rest. And I know they're proud. I know all that. Give me the blah, blah, blah. I also know that some of them are smart. And Bo Horvat has kind of proven what he's worth. I don't know what he can prove more in Vancouver. So I wanted to have some fun. I know that every other sports media giant basically has some weird name for getting into a deadline. They got Trade Bait, Trade Center, Trade Central. So I created Tim's Big Barter Board, a.k.a. Timmy's Top 10. It's not quite the same, I understand it, but I kind of want to make the joke. So we had Bo Horvat at 1, Timo Meier at 2, Jacob Chychrun at 3. I won't ask you to comment on the entire top 3 or the entire top 10, but which one of these are you hearing the most about right now?
I think it's Meier and it's Horvat.
Right.
You know, Horvat's having a marvelous season. He's a center. I think that top 6 centers are so hard to find in this league, and I think for that reason. Plus, also, I think Boston is one of the teams that's interested in him. So because the Bruins are having such a phenomenal season, I think that adds to it. Plus, Horvat's also playing in a Canadian market that gets a little bit of attention. Yeah. And there's like a 5-alarm fire every day. So I think that he's up there. With Meier, I think there's a lot. I think the biggest difference right now between Meier and Horvat is, to this point, the Canucks have not indicated they'll let Horvat talk to other teams. I think the Sharks are different. If they get a deal they like, they will. So that's going to be interesting. I would just put Horvat a little bit ahead of Meier because Horvat's a center, and centers are always in greater demand.
The Leafs seem to be in on at least the conversation surrounding Meier. Also down near the bottom of that list, Vladislav Gavrikov. Where do you think Kyle Dubas and the Leafs end up here?
I think the thing with Meier is, I think for a lot of it, it's more fans wishing. Right. I think there's a lot of fans who would love to see Timo Meier on the Leafs. I think that is an incredibly complicated deal to make for Toronto. I actually think he'd be a great fit there. I'm just not convinced that that's what they want. When Jake Muzzin went down at the beginning of early in the year, I think they said, whatever we do, and they don't have a lot of cap room, they don't have a ton of assets, but whatever we do, we have to do it for a Muzzin-esque player. Right. I think the way that their defense has played, Tim, has given them a little bit of pause on that. I think it's made them think, are we okay the way we are, and can we do something else? But I think they still feel like they have time to make that decision. There's been a lot of talk about Matthew Knies. I would say this about Toronto. In the past, they have never shown any indication of wishing to have Knies traded for a rental. I think if he was ever to be included in a deal, it would be for more than that. But I still think it's more likely than not they go for defense first, but I'm less convinced about that than I was when Muzzin first got injured.
So are the Leafs and the Oilers shopping in the same stores here?
Similar.
Yeah.
Similar. Yeah, for defensemen, I think they are.
Tough defensemen.
I still think the Oilers are looking for... Well, I think... one of the things the Oilers have told teams is that, yeah, they want a defenseman with some edge, but they also want a defenseman who can complete a pass, right? Like, I don't think in this day and age, especially when you're two teams that can transition the puck and so much of your offense is based on transition, like the Oilers and the Maple Leafs are. You have defensemen on the ice who can't make passes. And I think both of those teams think about that a lot.
Yeah.
So I know in Edmonton's case in particular, they have talked about that. Yeah, maybe we want somebody heavier, but we also got to make sure they can